The Whispers of Hollow's End. The sun cast long shadows over Hollow's End, painting the quaint houses in shades of amber and gold. Alex's car rumbled to a halt on Maple Street, and he took a moment to admire the picturesque scene before him. Rows of homes, all adorned with pumpkins, hay bales and ghosts made of white sheets, lined the streets. It looked like something straight out of a postcard. With a sigh of contentment, Alex unpacked his bags and made his way to the porch of his new home. The move from the bustling city to this peaceful town was just what he needed, especially with the recent pressures at work. Hollow's End promised a fresh start, a place to rejuvenate and find new stories to tell. His phone buzzed, signalling an incoming call. The screen flashed. "Charlie." "Hey, Uncle Alex." Charlie's voice rang with excitement. "Mum said I could stay with you for the Halloween week. She thinks city kids like me should experience real Halloween in a small town." Alex chuckled. "Of course. I've just settled in. This town takes Halloween very seriously, Charlie. You're in for a treat." The next morning, as Alex strolled through the town's market square, he was captivated by the intensity of the Halloween preparations. Giant spider webs hung between lampposts, witches on broomsticks swung from shop awnings, and the laughter of children echoed through the crisp autumn air. Mrs. Dalton's antiques stall caught his eye. The elderly lady was busy arranging vintage Halloween masks when she noticed Alex observing a particularly old photograph of Hollow's End. It depicted the town square, filled with townspeople. But in the background loomed the shadowy outline of an imposing manor. "Ah, you've an eye for history, young man," Mrs. Dalton remarked, her voice raspy yet kind. "That's the old Hollow Manor, a relic of our town's past, and some say, a keeper of its darkest secrets." Alex, intrigued, questioned further. "Why's that? It looks abandoned now." Mrs. Dalton leaned in, her eyes scanning the surroundings as if ensuring they were alone. "Every town has its tales, Mr. Alex," he replied, extending his hand. "Mr. Alex," she continued, "and Hollow's End is no exception. Just a word of advice. Enjoy the festivities, join the parade, but when night falls on Halloween, stay away from that manor." Before Alex could ask more, a commotion at the other end of the market distracted them. A group of children ran past, giggling and pointing at a house adorned with more decorations than any other. With a polite nod, Alex moved on, Mrs. Dalton's words ringing in his ears. Little did he know, he had just scratched the surface of the mystery that Hollow's End held. And with Charlie arriving soon, his adventures in this town were only beginning. The Hollow's End train station was alive with chatter and the clanking of wheels on tracks. Families reunited, children scampered about, and amidst it all stood Alex, scanning the crowd for his exuberant nephew. Then, a familiar shout. "Uncle Alex!" Charlie bolted from the train platform, his backpack bobbing, and threw himself into Alex's embrace. His eyes sparkled with anticipation. "This place looks amazing! And did you see the huge haunted house on the hill from the train window?" "That's the old Hollow Manor," Alex replied, remembering his conversation with Mrs. Dalton. "The town has many stories about it." As they walked through the cobbled streets, Charlie's gaze darted everywhere, trying to take in the overwhelming number of decorations and the townspeople in costumes. "This is so much better than the city," he exclaimed. "There, Halloween is just about candy. Here, it feels different." They decided to grab a late lunch at a cozy diner named the Witch's Brew. While waiting for their food, Alex shared what he had learned from Mrs. Dalton about Hollow Manor. Charlie, always hungry for tales of the mysterious, leaned in, his burger forgotten. "Do you think it's haunted, Uncle Alex? Maybe by ghosts of old townspeople, or, better yet, by witches and warlocks?" Alex chuckled. "I don't know about witches and warlocks, but the town does seem to have a deep connection with its history, especially that manor." Just then, a group of kids around Charlie's age entered the diner. Their excited chatter revolved around the upcoming Halloween parade, and the tales they'd heard from their grandparents. They whispered about shadows moving in Hollow Manor, about strange chants echoing on Halloween night, and about the eerie stillness that enveloped the town after dusk on that particular day. As they left, Charlie turned to Alex, his eyes wide with excitement. "We have to investigate, Uncle Alex. Imagine if we find real ghosts or uncover a hidden secret of Hollow's End." Alex considered it. He was here to discover stories after all. "All right," he conceded, "but we'll need to be careful. And remember what Mrs. Dalton said." Charlie grinned, wolfing down his burger. "Don't worry, Uncle Alex. We're going to have the most memorable Halloween ever." Neither of them realized just how prophetic that statement would be. The next day, draped in the warmth of the golden morning, Alex and Charlie decided to explore Hollow's End further. They walked the streets, marveling at the more intricate decorations and chatting with the friendly townspeople. While Charlie was particularly taken with a house that had turned its garden into a mock graveyard, complete with smoke machines and animatronic zombies, Alex found himself drawn back to Mrs. Dalton's antique stall. Seeing Alex approach, Mrs. Dalton greeted him with a knowing smile. "Back for more tales about Hollow Manor, are we?" Alex nodded, gesturing to Charlie. "My nephew's interested too." Mrs. Dalton's gaze shifted to Charlie, and her jovial demeanour changed slightly. "Ah, youth and its fearless curiosity," Shimu said, her voice heavy with an emotion Alex couldn't quite place. She began to share more about Hollow's End and the manor. Many years ago, the manor was the heart of the town, home to its founders. But tragedy struck one Halloween night when a fire erupted, engulfing the manor and taking many lives. Since then, the townspeople had avoided it, claiming they heard whispers and saw apparitions. "And every Halloween," she continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "those whispers become more distinct, and the shadows more restless. We hold our parade and festivities to celebrate the living, but also to appease those who are no longer with us." Charlie, wide-eyed, asked, "Has anyone ever gone inside on Halloween night?" Mrs. Dalton hesitated. "There have been a few, mostly outsiders, driven by skepticism or curiosity. They entered the manor after sunset on Halloween, and while some emerged scared and rattled, others never came out at all." Alex felt a chill. "But why? What happens inside?" Mrs. Dalton shook her head. "No one knows for sure. Those who return refuse to speak of it, as if bound by an unseen force. All we know is to respect the boundaries set by our ancestors." Charlie, undeterred, said with determination, "We could be the ones to uncover the truth. We could go in, just for a bit, and see for ourselves." Mrs. Dalton looked deeply into Charlie's eyes, her earlier warmth replaced by stern concern. "Promise me you won't, young man. Some mysteries are better left unsolved, for every tale has its truth and every whisper its source." The duo left the stall, the weight of Mrs. Dalton's words pressing heavily on their minds. But while Alex felt a growing apprehension, Charlie's resolve only strengthened. The old manor, with its towering spires and whispered tales, beckoned. As Halloween approached, Hollow's End transformed. The festive cheer intensified, but so did an underlying tension. The townspeople were friendlier, smiles a bit too wide, their warnings more frequent. "Stay indoors after the parade," they'd say, or "Remember to light a candle in your window." Alex noticed these peculiarities and, as a journalist, his instincts told him there was more to uncover. Charlie, on the other hand, was singularly focused on the manor. His excitement was palpable, but so was his recklessness. On the eve of Halloween, Charlie made a proposition. "Let's go to the manor tonight, just to have a look from the outside. We won't go in, that way we'll be prepared for tomorrow." Alex hesitated. The warnings from Mrs. Dalton echoed in his mind, but looking at Charlie's eager face, he found it hard to refuse. "All right," he agreed, "but only from the outside, and we won't stay long." Dusk settled as they began their ascent up the hill towards Hollow Manor. The path was overgrown, evidence of its years of neglect. As they approached, the manor loomed large against the purpling sky, its broken windows resembling hollow eyes. Charlie, flashlight in hand, illuminated parts of the facade, revealing faded murals and intricate carvings. "Look," he whispered, pointing to a depiction of what seemed to be a gathering, much like the parade the town held. They circled the building, finding an old garden with statues worn by time and a fountain long dry. Everything was eerily silent, save for the distant echoes of Hollow's End's festivities. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew, and the manor seemed to come alive. A faint glow emanated from within, and soft, indecipherable whispers danced in the air. Startled, Alex grabbed Charlie's arm. "We should go," he murmured. But Charlie was transfixed. He edged closer to a window, trying to discern the source of the glow. "Just a minute more," he whispered back. And then, as quickly as they started, the whispers ceased, the light vanished, and everything plunged into an unsettling silence. The duo hurriedly made their way back to town, the manor's imposing silhouette watching them retreat. The encounter had stoked the flames of Charlie's curiosity even more, but for Alex, it served as a stark warning. Back in their home, as Alex locked the doors and windows, he made a silent vow to ensure they wouldn't venture near the manor on Halloween night. Little did he know, fate had other plans. Halloween dawned cool and overcast, the clouds a quilted grey expanse above Hollow's End. The town was abuzz with activity, children in costumes darting about, their laughter punctuating the chilly air. Alex tried to immerse himself in the festivities, hoping to distract Charlie from the previous night's intrigue. They carved pumpkins, joined a hayride, and even participated in a costume contest, though Charlie's hastily put-together ghost costume didn't win any prizes. As dusk approached, the townspeople began to gather for the parade. Families lined the streets, their faces illuminated by lanterns and candlelit pumpkins. The parade was a mesmerizing array of floats, dancers, and musicians, all celebrating the history of Hollow's End. Charlie was momentarily distracted, but Alex could see the faraway look in his nephew's eyes. The allure of the manor's mystery was too potent. As the parade came to an end, the town's mayor made an announcement, reminding everyone to be indoors before the clock struck 10. The underlying note of urgency in his voice was unmistakable. Walking back home, the streets gradually emptied, the windows of houses lit by solitary candles. The silence grew denser as the night deepened. Alex, hoping to cement their indoor plans, began setting up a movie night. He laid out snacks, dimmed the lights, and started an old horror classic. Around 9:30 p.m., just as the movie's suspense heightened, there was a power outage. The entire town was engulfed in darkness, save for the faint candles flickering in distant windows. Alex lit a few candles, trying to dispel the creeping unease. "Let's wait it out," he suggested. "Power should be back soon." But Charlie, sensing an opportunity, had other plans. "This might be our only chance, Uncle Alex," he whispered, his voice trembling with excitement and fear. "Everyone's indoors. We could sneak to the manor, just have a quick look and come back." Alex resisted, but Charlie's enthusiasm, combined with the unexpected blackout, made him reconsider. "All right," he relented, "but we stay together. At the slightest sign of danger, we head back." Navigating through the inky darkness, they reached the base of the hill leading to the manor. The moon, emerging from behind the clouds, cast an eerie glow on the path ahead. The manor, when they arrived, seemed different than the previous night. The silence was even more pronounced, the darkness more profound. Yet, as midnight approached, faint outlines of people appeared around the manor, spectral figures, neither entirely there nor entirely absent. Suddenly the soft whispers returned, growing in intensity and culminating in a haunting melody that echoed the songs from the parade. Charlie and Alex, rooted to the spot, watched as these ghostly apparitions seemed to reenact the town's old festivities. As the clock tower in the distance struck midnight, a blinding light erupted from the manor, and the spectral figures turned their gaze towards the two intruders. Panicking, Alex grabbed Charlie and they raced down the hill. The figures followed, their whispers now desperate cries. the duo burst into their home, slamming the door shut and panting heavily. The ghostly pursuit ceased at the threshold. As the first rays of dawn began to pierce the horizon, the power returned. The TV buzzed back to life, resuming the paused horror film. But the real horror of Hollow's End lay not on the screen but in the memories of the night that Charlie and Alex would never forget. The morning after Halloween in Hollow's End was always a quiet affair. But this time, the silence held a different weight for Alex and Charlie. The town was slowly coming to life, with the townspeople emerging from their homes, sharing stories of the night's celebrations and the mysterious power outage. At breakfast, Alex and Charlie sat in contemplative silence, processing the night's events. They knew they had witnessed something otherworldly, something that tied the manor and the town together in an inexplicable bond. Curiosity got the better of Alex, and he decided to pay one last visit to Mrs. Dalton, hoping she might provide some clarity. Charlie, a mix of excitement and apprehension evident in his eyes, accompanied him. Finding Mrs. Dalton at her antique stall, Alex recounted their midnight experience. She listened intently, nodding occasionally, her face a mask of understanding and concern. When he finished, she sighed deeply. "You've seen what very few have and returned to tell the tale. The spirits you witnessed were of our ancestors, forever bound to the manor by that fateful fire. On Halloween night, when the veil between worlds is thinnest, they reenact their last happy moments, trying to find solace." Charlie hesitated before asking, "Why did they chase us?" Mrs. Dalton replied, "They didn't wish you harm. They were just drawn to the living, hoping for a connection, a way to communicate their pain and longing. It's a cycle they're trapped in, year after year." Moved by the tragic history, Alex inquired, "Is there no way to free them? To let them find peace?" Mrs. Dalton looked thoughtful. "Legends speak of a ritual, performed on Halloween night, that can free their souls. But it's risky and has never been attempted. The town chose to remember and honour them in our own way with the parade and festivities." Leaving the stall, Alex and Charlie shared a moment of reflection. They realised that they were now a part of Hollow's End's legacy, bound by the secret they shared. The duo spent the rest of the day in town, participating in the post-Halloween clean-up and saying their goodbyes. The townspeople treated them with a newfound respect, sensing that they had experienced the heart of Hollow's End in a way few outsiders had. As they boarded the train to leave, Charlie looked out at the receding silhouette of the manor on the hill. "Maybe we can return next year," he mused, "and help them find peace." Alex nodded, looking at his nephew with pride. "Yes, perhaps we can." And as the train chugged away, the mysteries of Hollow's End remained, waiting for another year, another Halloween, to share its tales with those brave enough to listen.